What's going on, guys? It's Ben here from BH Aquatics. As you can see, we're starting to clean in the fish room. So, starting off here, none of the sponge filters are running right now. As you can see, we are doing a water change to one of my guppy breeding group tanks. So it's going to be nice and clean. The water's kind of murky right now. I've already done a 50% water change to a blue albino topaz breeding group tank, and I've already done a 50% water change to my steel nebula breeding group tank. This one, I actually haven't done a water change in a while, and I decided it would be about time I do it now, just because I had a couple of fish dying in there. I was thinking maybe some ammonia levels were getting a little bit high, since it's been almost a month since I did a water change in this tank. So it was about time that I started to do a water change in there, just so that we didn't have any more deaths. Alrighty, guys, so to clean my sponge filters, that's all I do is I have a 10-quart bucket here, filled about halfway with water, because I do have a sink in here that I put in with my grandfather, but it doesn't have any hot or cold water connected to it. That's all it's really used for, is a condensed area as a drain, basically. But we will be connecting water to it soon. But in the meantime, this is how I have to clean my sponge filters. Let me just grab this sponge filter out of the tank, detach it here, and just, take it apart, rinse off the bottom piece. Depends on where you get it from. Some of them have more pieces than others do. The one that I get in particular, it's like 4 different parts. It's the sponge, which, you just take and you put in the water, squeeze it, put in the water, squeeze it, wring it out, put in the water, wring it out, put in the water, wring it out. I do it about 10 times, just so that I can get all the food out of it. After that, it's pretty simple. You just grab your thing. This is the piece that holds the sponge onto it, so that's all you really got to do is wrap the sponge around it. I don't worry about breaking the sponge filter either. I always thought I was going to break the sponge itself when I took it off this piece, this base piece, and then put it back on. I always thought I was going to tear the sponge, since it feels so cheap, but they're actually made so that you can do that. And then the base piece, you just put it back on the bottom, and you're all set. So that's how I clean my sponge filters. Pretty simple. I have 10 tanks in here. Actually, I think, yeah, I have 10 tanks with sponge filters right now, so it's super easy. Just go around, do that to every single tank, and I'll be done with all 10 tank sponge filters in less than 5 minutes. Alrighty, guys, so to clean murky bottoms, I have a like this one right here. This is my glass lace belly guppies breeding groups tank. Food, the sponge filter is working overtime in all the breeding group tanks. I only clean the sponge filters every week and a half to 2 weeks. So the food buildup on the bottom does get really intense and starts to stick on the bottom. So something that I have this little aquarium brush here that I just rub back and forth, and as you guys can see, when I'm done with it, wait till the water calms down a little bit there. When I'm done with it, of course that just had to come in front of the camera, but when I'm done with it, you see the bottom's pretty clean, and then I just have to flick on the air pump, which I have a central air pump running the whole fish room. As soon as I turn that on, the sponge filter turns on and sucks up all the different debris that's laying on the bottom that I just shifted and finally got off the bottom, so it's no longer sticking there. So as you guys may know, Bob, my gold red-shouldered Severum, I believe he's called, he is in this 30-gallon BioCube. So cleaning his tank is a little bit different. Since the BioCube has a much more elaborate filtering system than all my other tanks have, since of course all my other tanks are running off sponge filters, he's actually running on a completely different filtering system than everybody else. He's running on his own personal filtering system, just because he is a show Severum. He does have a couple of albino bristlenose plecos in there, so he does have his own filtration system in here, and his own heater. So whereas everybody else is heated from this one tower heater, which is on during the night, he is constantly being heated to like 75 degrees in here. So yeah, that's all we have to do for this guy. Is I actually don't have to do this now because, as you can see, the filter's actually pretty clean. I did it recently. That's all you got to do is take the filter out, rinse it in the bowl just like you do anything else. Take all the bio balls out that is underneath this filter. Rinse those, spray them down with a hose. I take them upstairs in the sink upstairs that has a hose, and I just spray them down, and then bring them down here, let them dry off, put them back in, put the filter back on, maybe even put a new filter on if I've used the filter once or twice already, and get the system running again. So it's pretty simple for the BioCube, though it is much more elaborate than all the other things. It does take a little bit longer since I do wait for the bio balls to dry, but you know, it's worth it because it keeps my show fish, my show Severum, looking nice and always in prestige condition. Next up, how I clean my breeder boxes. These are hanging on breeder boxes. This one is right now hanging off the side of my glass lace belly guppy breeding group tank. We have a couple of females in there that are actually look like they're gonna be dropping fry maybe in the next week and a half to 2 weeks. And as you can see, since I do feed them in here, I do run the filter in here, everything. Sometimes there is food that gets in the bottom, gets through the grate, and unfortunately gets on the bottom where you don't want it. And you do want the area in here to be clean, because if you see the grate where the fry fall through is kind of gets filled up when the food gets stuck in there, and that sometimes doesn't allow the fry to fall through. Sometimes it limits them from falling through and causes them to get eaten if your mothers are fry eaters, if they do eat their babies. So you don't want that to happen, obviously, if you're like me and you're breeding for profit. So you want to make sure you keep these clean. So that's all I do is I actually take my water here. I have this brush that I use to clean the bottom of the glass lace belly guppies in this thing here. This bucket of water and vinegar. This actually works so well. You let it soak in there for like a day, take it out, brush it down. Actually, I brush it down with the same brush. I'll rinse this one out before I brush it down though. Rinse this out, brush it down with this, and put it back on the tank, get it all working, and we're all set to go. Overall, down here in the BH Aquatics Fish Room, we are only cleaning about a week and a half to 2 weeks. Sometimes it's even 3 weeks if I get busy. And it doesn't take too much time, but it does take maybe like an hour to an hour and a half, and that's only with that is with only 10 tanks, 10, 11 tanks, something like that. But that may also be because the way I do my tanks is a lot more in depth than some other people might. I know that some other people may only do their sponge filters, they may only clean the outside. I mean, I don't really know. They might have more elaborate filtering systems than I do, so it's completely based on how people want to clean their stuff is how it's going to be done, and it doesn't have to be as elaborate as I do it. Basically, other than that, that's pretty much all I have for this video. Quick thing on how I clean my fish room, just so that all my breeding for profit fish variations of guppies are in prestige condition at all times. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If so, make sure you like, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in Thursday's video.